So this one stock doubled in 7 days. And not only did I see it coming, but I want to show you step by step how you could have seen it coming too, and maybe even had the chance to make a four-bagger within that same period of time instead of me sitting here with just a double in 7 days. I know, don't cry for me. So let's talk about ABTB metals. This is the stock that has gone absolutely haywire lately. And I want to just give you a glimpse of the signs that were there so that you could maybe keep an eye out in case this happens again and you could take action quickly. Unless you were really following my stuff very closely and you were willing to take action because you understood the value, then you've missed out on this one. But it's okay because this does happen every now and again. And you lose, you learn, you win, you learn, right? That's how we know how to navigate these markets. So let's take a look here at what happened on the 17th, I think it was 17th of November, 2023. We put out on our newsletter, and when I say we, it's my team and I, we put out a headliner. We always try to make it so that the headliner is either something that really is important because it's a massive hit, a massive discovery, a massive something, or, and this is where it gets interesting, or it's a really big thing for a company that nobody's ever heard of. And why do we do that? Well, it's very simple, because we want to be known as a newsletter that brings news about companies that are fresh and new. And as they become more popular, more developed, we want to be able to point to our own newsletter and say, I told you so. We've reported this and look at where they are now. So do pay attention to what we feature on the newsletter, because sometimes we are leaning towards this kind of value to our readers, and it's free, so it can't hurt. So if you click on here, you'll see that the transformative copper deal was announced. ABTB Metals announced it has signed a definitive agreement to acquire up to 80% of the B26 deposit from, okay, now it starts to get interesting, okay? Soquem, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced differently because, let's face it, this is in Quebec. And so everything is pronounced differently in Quebec. Even if you speak French, you're probably wrong. A subsidiary of Investissement Québec. Okay, so a tiny junior made a deal to acquire 80% of a formerly owned by the government project. That is a head scratcher, because we know that whenever you have a project that is essentially under the control of a government, it's because, first of all, permitting is pretty much guaranteed. They already know and love the project. Secondly, it's something that they deem interesting and important for the local economy, which means that you likely have backing locally, and a lot of the work has been done by the government on their dime. Let's pretend that the government has a dime to begin with, but a lot of it has been already done. So you're looking at something here that, like I said, has been worked on previously by the government. And so what you end up with is a resource shebang. Highlights from 2018 is that they have pretty much 7 million tons of 2.94% copper equivalent. Oh my goodness. Like, what nonsense kind of grade is this? This is like super high grade. I absolutely love this. Obviously, it's not just copper, but still the copper factor inside of this equivalency is still pretty decent. 1.32% copper, like that's still very much high grade. And then you have zinc, gold, and also a little bit of silver. So you have here a decent resource that can grow, and that is the whole point of them getting into this project. Now, here's the thing. ABTB is the first public company with an option to earn into the B26 polymetallic copper deposit. So the government sat on this deposit for many, many, many years, and It was one of Quebec's most promising mineral discoveries in its heyday. I just gave you the story. Current strike length of 1 kilometer and depth extent of 0.8 kilometers, which is open for expansion. So you have the upside of further exploration. And here on the 17th, I told you the stock has doubled since. We're long, strong, and biased. Now, if you go over to ABTB Metals, and obviously it has absolutely rocketed since then, I do expect it to correct anytime, I don't know, probably today or something like that. But eventually, I think this is going to get into an interesting trend where you're going to see them develop the project and have great news to back it up. But let's take a look at this company and why this doubled in the first place. So when you take a look at their presentation here on their website, this page 3 tells you a lot, okay? It tells you quickly about the project. It's what we've already mentioned. That's fine. They do have a drill program that's going to commence anytime between December and the first quarter of 2024. And then they kind of hand it over to you on a platter. Look at this tight share structure. And they say that management and associates own approximately 75% of the float. 75% of the float of a company that was trading for, well, they tell you down here before the announcement, 8 million market cap. So tiny little company, Wallbridge, which had an amazing discovery, already owns a bit of this company, which is also, a good seal of approval to have. It's not massive, 4% is small, but still, they have a footing there. And you're looking at what used to be an $8 million market cap for a project of this quality and grade. And the owners are sitting on 75% of the float. That usually means a lot, okay? Now, when you get to that bit of information, the only other question that matters after the tight float is, okay, how tight is the float? Just because management holds it, does it really mean they're going to hold onto this for the long term? And then you start looking at who the management is. And that is the bread and butter of investing in anything, but most importantly, in investing in mining, because there's so many unknowns that unless you have really good people at the helm of the company, you can guarantee that they're going to mess something up at some point. I've seen decent projects in the hands of not so great people just gone to absolute hell. You know how this works. And so when you move down a little bit into their presentation, then you can see, who this management team is. So let's scroll down here. I know you can't see it. Let me share it with you right now. So back here, President and CEO, John DeLuce. Okay. Interesting. John DeLuce is a guy who's a chartered accountant. So you think, okay, the guy looks young, chartered accountant, probably doesn't have that much experience. But if you didn't really pay attention to the share structure way back up here, then you would have missed something very important, where they show you that the family of John DeLuce actually has a very strong shareholding in the company. And so they tell you in this presentation that the family actually owns a lot of stock. Let me see if I can find where they disclaim that. All right, so the page literally disappeared when I was scrolling because the website's playing tricks on me. But it's page 20 of their presentation. You can go and look for yourself. And look here, the Luce family is a shareholder at 13% holding. Okay, let's try that again. All right, so when you scroll down to page 20 of their presentation, currently they show you that the DeLuce family holds 13% of the float. And then you want to figure out why this matters. Does it matter, actually? And you can Google DeLuce family, Ontario or Canada or whatever, and you're going to figure out who these guys are. And you're going to come to the realization that these people do not need to make a quick buck with one junior mining company stock. In fact, if you Google the CEO's name, John DeLuce, then you're going to find on YouTube an interview that he gave barely a year ago before they had this deal. And it tells you about, he's a member of the DeLuce family office who has developed projects privately and financed junior mining companies for the past 20 years. So here's a family that doesn't need to make a quick buck, has a reputation in their province, has, the younger folks of the family working in the junior mining industry, not as a rebellious hobby, but as something that's been part of the family financial activities for the past 20 years. And then you also know from the news that they put out that they're going to have to spend a lot of money in order to actually be able to use this as their own project, to earn into it, right? And so in earning into the project, they have a lot of expenditures year by year. This is going to run into the millions of dollars. You can check it out on the piece of news itself. And so you know that they're going to have to raise, that it's a tight float, that the project is really good quality. It's already been partially drilled by the government. And so the setup is there. It's almost a perfect setup. Now, it could have gone the other way. It could have gone sideways a little bit. But let me tell you how you could have seen this even earlier than what we published it. So this takes a little bit of work. It does. I won't lie. But here's how you could have seen this coming and actually quadrupled your money very, very quickly. You could be sitting very pretty here. There's a nifty little trick, which is only watching mining news and seeing it as they come out live. I use this to report on my newsletter, and you can use it as well from now until forever. But it takes time, and you kind of need to be on top of things like every single day. I have noticed, actually, I'm not going to tell you what I have noticed just yet, but I'm going to show you what happened with ABTB and how you could have seen it coming. So you have here now and again mining news that pops up on ceo.ca/news/mining. And it just updates automatically. There are some news that are missed by this page, I'm not going to lie, but most of them are appropriately tagged with news and mining. And so you do get most of everything that's happening in mining right now. All of the different news releases are reported here mostly, okay? So what happened was they reported on a Thursday that they needed to halt the stock, basically. And the way it happened is there was a trading halt, okay? And after the trading halt, several hours after the trading halt, then they came out with the news, and you can see it here. Here's the trading halt, okay, on the 16th of November, which should have raised the flag to you to watch it, not to buy it, to watch it. So the reason is it's pending news. So something big is coming, to the extent that they can't just release the news right on the spot, or else it's going to move the market and they're going to be punished for it. So it's going to be supposedly big news. And then at 6:15, they came out with the actual piece of news. And there it is on a Thursday at 6:15. Okay. Now, 6:15 is probably London time. I think that they have adjusted all these times to reflect the person who's watching it. So this is, I want to say, almost 4 hours. Yeah, it's almost 4 hours into the trading day, whatever that is for your time zone, almost 4 hours into the trading day. This is usually a little bit later than most pieces of news of this importance come out. And then what happened is when you saw this and you understood the size of the market cap versus the importance of this piece of news, then you would have put two and two together and probably bought a little, or started to do some homework. The thing is, the stock started to move very quickly because it's very tightly held, right? Obviously. And so it started to move. But one thing that told me that this still had a lot of legs was the fact that the amount of people online on CEO.ca, on the boards, and the amount of people commenting, they had two characteristics. One is that there weren't many people at all. Secondly, is that it was small grassroots people that are always on top of things, right? It wasn't just a massive amount of people going back and forth. There were no fights. It was pretty quiet. People were very positive about it, but it's like this, it's the same old gang that's talking here. And so I'm like, this thing has a lot to run. I mean, the amount of shares out is at 60 million, but I don't think that most of these shares are going anywhere. And so I started to think, I think this is going to run a little bit more. Obviously, this is no guarantee, and I did not know for sure that this was going to happen so quickly. But at a $30 million market cap for the quality of the project and for the quality of the people behind this, I think this is fair. I think this could have been forecasted by somebody like you, somebody who's a small investor like yourself that put two and two together and looked at the team and at the project and at the jurisdiction as well. I mean, you look at high level or high grade copper projects in Canada, you can barely find any. And if you get something that has potential for size, then you can get overvalued very quickly. So next time that something like this happens, I mean, the one thing that I didn't want to tell you, but now I will, is I've been noticing things come out on Thursdays after the first rush of the day. When the market opens and it gets kind of crazy and it feels like all the news are coming out then, or they have come out already, and people trade in and out and there's movement and then it quiets down. I've been seeing a lot of interesting things come out on a Thursday after things have already quieted down, just like ABTB published 4 hours into the trading day. So just something to keep an eye out on. And the reason why, like we mentioned, the stock had already doubled by the time that we mentioned it, is that we could only mention it on the Friday, because by the time of the day that this came out, we had already finished our newsletter. So we didn't see it. And so it's important for you to take a look at what news is out there out of the sexy hours of, right at market open or right before it. Because I don't want to say that it's a trend that's happening right now, but this is not the first time that I see this happen. And I am very deep into mining news every single day because of the newsletter that I build every single day for free, where you can, instead of having to do all this work, just check out all the best news that I've found out in the last 24 hours. And it's free. It gets into your inbox, and there is always a meme to go with it, which is obviously the most important part. So if you'd like to know more about how to sign up for this free newsletter, then click on the next video and I'll show you very quickly how to sign up for it, how to make the most of it. That's it. Happy speculating.